Who's here?
There we go. Morning, everybody.
Morning, Bob.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Bob.
Give me 1 second here.
Yeah, Tony's here. Bob's here. John's here. I'm here. Jed's here. Ryan, Anne Marie. And we're okay. Everybody's here.
Yes. 1 second. Oops. Okay. It's 8 o'clock. I would like to just call us to order. Wendy, I note, if for the record, that we've got all members in attendance.
Got it?
And if anybody has trouble hearing or seeing me, let me know, because I just got a signal from Comcast that my internet connection is unstable.
Oh, imagine that.
Okay. Okay. And I'd like to welcome Jen Brand, who's the Vice President of, I think, Operations for Open Cape. And with permission, I'm going to move the agenda around a little bit. The most pressing issue we've got coming up is challenge testing, and Open Cape has some kind of what I think is an exciting joint approach that we can all take advantage of. That's going to ease at least the burden of the town quite a bit here. I've heard this described 2 or 3 times, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen. And Jen, are you going to project anything, any slides or anything?
No, I don't have any slides because unfortunately, well, first let me say thank you for inviting me this morning. I do appreciate this opportunity. Unfortunately, anything with MBI, everything is kind of slow fed to us about requirements and things like that. So
that does not make you unique in the slightest, Jen.
So we're still trying to pull all those pieces of the puzzle together. But you're absolutely right, Bob. We do believe that the only way to be effective in this challenge is to create a coalition, a regional coalition, and bring everybody together to really have our voices heard. That is, everybody. The Commonwealth believes that we're all independently wealthy and can fund all of our own projects. And as we all know, with many of the projects that we have in front of us, that's couldn't be farther from the truth. So they just announced that their challenge process will be opening up on June 20th, from June 20th to July 20th, and the requirements for that testing. So yes, they're not going to make that easy either. So what Open Cape is proposing is that we are going to work with a program that we have worked with before. It's called CrowdFiber, and that we will send this out. Again, this is where our collaboration with many entities to get the word out. I mean, that's the one thing we hear in many of our meetings that we have. How do we get this information out? How do we get people to participate in this? So it requires each participant that is doing the testing to upload their provider invoice, as well as do 3 testings at 3 different times. So trying to pull that together to get people to do that is obviously going to be a challenge in its own. So we are, again, working with CrowdFiber to be able to pull that information together. And I'm happy to say we actually just met with the Cape Cod Commission on Tuesday, who are very eager to work with us and collaborate with us. And that's also what we're looking for, is looking for towns, municipalities. Obviously, we know that there's very limited people that can spearhead this whole challenge process, whether it be ISPs, municipalities, or nonprofits. So we don't want this to be just an Open Cape effort. We want this to be many people responding to this. And so when we submit this data to them, we want to be able to say, it isn't just us, and we don't necessarily even want to label it as Open Cape. We would rather partner with other organizations and to be included in this. So one of the things that we really want to do, because as we've experienced with MBI and other programs that we work with, the rules kind of change as things go along. So what we want to do is be able to get this up and running. We're actively working on getting it up and ready now. Send this out to, say this group, the commission, send it out to couple key groups to be able to put it out there, test it ourselves, take the data, send it to MBI and say, is this acceptable? We don't want to go through this whole process, find out we did all this work, and now we just missed one part, or this was missing, or some part of it makes it all not worth the time or effort. So with saying that, this is, the opportunity to be able to collaborate with the towns. Each town, whether they're cable committees, we were just at a digital equity meeting 2 Thursdays ago. Great environment of all the key players here in our region, from schools, libraries, healthcare, municipalities, and other entities as well. So the commission is prepared to send out all of this information to their long list of supporters. And so we're trying to find that other supporters to collaborate. And what we are doing is preparing a lot of this information and putting it together. So what we want to do is be able to have weekly meetings on Mondays. And so it's going to be with the commission. The Cape Cod Tech Council is a supporter of this as well, and collaborating with us. So whether it stays those 3 entities, or if there's other organizations that say, no, we want to be on the forefront of this as well, we're open to that. We're not, again, this is kind of all coming together so quickly. We're really trying to pull it together. And because if this isn't done well, it's not going to be effective. And that's the important part, is doing it well, gathering all the information and then submitting it as such. So I just really kind of threw a lot at you at once. Does anybody have any questions? Which I'm sure, I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen the hands already.
Well, go ahead, Bob.
Wendy, first.
Well, my immediate response is that, and don't take this personally, Anne Marie, it's not a slam on the select board, really. Of all the groups in Bourne that you could hope to work with, we are probably the fastest workers. And
That's what I like to hear.
so I personally, I think if you could get, a link out to the app that people are going to have to download, we can start working on that out of our homes for dry run. But the second question is, how are we going to get MBI to respond to these dry run tests?
Obviously,
Because if they just sit on it the way they sit on everything, we're never going to know until the test period starts and they say, oh, well, this stuff's not acceptable.
Well, and that's where I'd say building this coalition. So it isn't just silencing one entity or 2 or 5. When this is a collaboration of a mass of our region, and really, this is what I say all the time, right now, Open Cape just looks like we have our hand out and say, hey, we just want this money because we just, want to build out. What they're not hearing from is the masses of people, whether residents or businesses, that say, no, we are underserved. These are the challenges that we have. And this is what we need to do to be able to prepare, to fix this. And, anybody that's been in any events with me, I constantly say, we have to stop talking about what we're going to do for tomorrow or a year from now. We need to be talking long-term. What are we doing to prepare for not 5 years, 10, 20 years down the road? Because let's face it, the 100 over 20 isn't even acceptable for today. So whereas that is their baseline for where they want to be at, it's not even acceptable for that. So, but, you need 6, test subjects per census block. We have 50 census blocks here in our region. And we want to be so effective. We don't want just 6. We want to be able to have hundreds per census block to be able to say, we didn't just cherry pick, kind of like the competition, cherry pick the few that have poor service. We want to be able to demonstrate, no, this is wide and far how this is affected. And obviously in the time period that this will be the challenge process is prime time for when we have our most visitors here. And here it is, May 30th, and you're receiving notices, that your internet connection is unstable. It isn't just in the busy season, but if we can highlight that the biggest, this is what it looks like, true data from this time period, it's harder for them to say we are served.
Just a quick point, and our expert on these rules is Brian McCarter. But I'm going to just chime in to say that any data that are submitted now, in fact, are going to be part of the data set. So
Correct.
the faster
Correct.
you can get something up and running, we can
Correct.
start testing immediately.
Yeah. And that's what you're absolutely correct. That was kind of some of the information they just released, just recently. And so we're happy about that because exactly. I mean, even they're talking about the, that the published acceptable forms of evidence will be ready by June 20th. Well, how are people supposed to prepare for that if everything isn't even already, the guidelines are set and everything is ready? So again, I think, I don't want to say power to the people. I mean, I know that's, pretty cliche, but seriously,
I'm good with
by-
that. It
by
worked
doing-
before.
by doing that, truthfully, and this is even how Open Cape was originally established too. It was not, one entity, vision. It was a collaboration, a coalition of our region that made it effective. And so that's where we really need to be is by sticking together and say, this is what is needed. And so by challenging this process, we need our voice to be heard and loud.
Okay. Question, Anne Marie.
Thank you, Bob. Jen, do you foresee being the keeper of the budget, any monetary obligations for municipalities to participate in this challenge?
I'm not going to say I would turn it away. We understand, and some of the efforts that we're discussing of how to get the word out. I mean, other than just to everybody's email list, we are talking about some rather aggressive forms of getting the information out, and they will be costly. There's no doubt about it. I won't turn any money away. I would love partnerships on the financial, but we understand that this is such a short window that, from municipalities or other entities, that might be challenging. And we do not want that to be a hurdle of why you would be part of this coalition.
Yeah, just to point out that this is information gathering, which is part of our committee's charge. So we're just going to go ahead and do it. And speaking for myself, and not for individual members of the committee, but I'm willing to put in sweat equity to help as an individual.
And I think that's really what goes the furthest is really, getting the word out. And that's what, if you want to say a master plan of really being effective, because we really want to target one certain time to be most effective in this. But obviously there is a larger window that we can collect the data. So, but really that's what's needed the most. And in many cases, that's our hardest challenge because everybody is overworked, understaffed, and already, pretty tired of really trying to make the best effort of this.
Any estimate at all as to when this app could be ready to download and start working with?
We're hoping, I'd like to say by tomorrow, but definitely by early part next week.
Awesome.
Okay.
I know.
And we heard a bit yesterday in the Technology Council from Rob Bateman. Can you tell me where your kind of standard messaging is that we can start distributing or copying or cloning?
So that's what we're working on. We're working on a media kit, so collateral things that can be used to be shared. On Monday, we have our meeting. We're going to have our first meeting with the Cape Cod Commission, the Tech Council, anybody that wants to join us in that meeting. Again, I encourage anybody to reach out to me and I'll happily add you because I think again, it's that sweat equity that's really going to get the word out. So everybody involved, and we're just in such a small window. So we really, it's a lot easier to have everybody involved instead of going back and playing telephone to try to relay the information. But by Monday, we hope to have that media kit, if you want to say, to be able to support that and get this initiative going.
Put me
Jen,
on your list for that.
so exactly, are we talking about an app that one can install on their phone or a website or what exactly? It's a website. Okay.
Yep. So it would be a website. And again, we're back and forth. And again, I encourage anybody's feedback, trying to figure out what that website name should be. So we started off by registering CapeCodSpeedTest.com, but then, we weren't sure, do we want to make it more, you got to make it short so that everybody remembers it, but also understand what it is. So you would go to a website, you would put in your information. That is where you would upload your bill, and then you would take your first speed test, and then we would have a reminder, say a day later, 2 days late, 3 days later, to say, hey, don't forget to go back and take another speed test, and then it will compile all of that data. And the commission is very helpful in this process. And so, we can use their GIS systems to really, pull it all together and make it, most effective for understanding in the census blocks. And
Can they do the speed test from within this website, or do they have to do it from somewhere else and then bring it back?
No, it will be within this website.
Awesome.
So we had originally used it when we started up Open Cape. We've actually used it twice now. And so you would just go to, at the time it was on our website, but you would go on our website. It would pull into another portal, but it would be done right there.
Awesome.
Okay. Brian McCarter, you have a question.
So yeah, I do have a question. Will some of us have access to this tool so that we can see the speed tests as they come in case we need to, kind of go back to people and have them redo them, or say the bill's wrong and that kind of thing? Will we have viewing access?
So, definitely as the organizers, we will have access to that. Now, our only issue with providing more access to multiple members is obviously that's where the program gets you, and they want more money for each additional, user, if you want to say. But that's a great question, because obviously, as we talk about, we only have so much bandwidth ourselves, no pun intended, for our staff to be able to be there and actively, monitoring it for those exact reasons. So great question, Brian. I will definitely follow up and ask that question.
I think it'd be most valuable. I'm sure David Still from the commission is in the middle of this, but if he could, as the data starts to populate on his GIS map, if he could start identifying holes. I think it's census block groups that get submitted, right, Brian? Is that
I would have to check the definition again, but yeah,
okay.
I can foresee this needing at least one of us to have an account, because we'll have to go and possibly bang on doors and
if David could get that information back to us real time,
right.
and tell us, send us a screenshot even of a map and say, hey, we don't have anything from this census block.
That's right.
The way this goes is census block group, and then census tract. And I thought they were grouping these by census block groups, which would mean less than 55. It could be, could be on the order of 15 or something like that. So the exact definition, we'll have to check with David on that. But the idea is, we know where the problem areas are in Bourne, and David does now too, after having completed the digital equity plan for Bourne, so we can tell where we have to knock on doors.
Right.
And I think especially we want to have this in place and running full blast on 4th of July weekend, because that's when the real slowdown is going to happen.
That's right. And that's really what we want to be able to do, all this testing kind of prior to, and that would be our target time, is because that is going to be the most, impactful on the results. And obviously, I'm sure everybody's aware as well that the Cape Cod Commission has done their own survey, and compiled all the data for speed tests, so they can kind of help us also identify areas where maybe there wasn't a big response, or, so be able to, again, kind of target some of those areas.
Okay, John Frank.
Yeah. So, Jen, one of the things that we haven't addressed yet that as a committee we've seen frequently is, for instance, Comcast, our only provider here, will claim that we can give you, X and Y up and down, but the reality is that in many cases, in fact, Bob will attest to it this morning, it doesn't make that, or we have a lot of failures in the system where it either goes down or the speed drops tremendously or it breaks up. And the problem that we've had with everything we've looked at in terms of testing is, how do you prove that? Because Comcast is going on and saying to the FCC, oh, no, it's all fine. Everybody has, 100/20, no issue at all. Yeah, I have 100/20 every third Thursday between 8 and 9 a.m. maybe, and not during the summer at all. So
That's
is this testing method have any way to report these intermittent failures?
Well, so what we're hopeful for, and obviously, we all play a key part, getting this out to the residents is obviously important, but for the people that truly understand this whole process, I mean, we can go and when we talk about, digital equity and literacy, the mainstream people don't even understand any of this. They don't even understand, other than their internet doesn't work. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So having, the wide range of people that are in the know, taking these tests and sharing that information with those, that might have less quality service is really going to be important. And so, forget even just doing 3 tests. I mean, I'd love it to, if once this gets out, we're just running tests on a regular basis, because we only have to submit so many tests, 3 per site. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, we have to be able to submit all of the ones that came through. So we can be able to identify key areas and we would even more so love to be able to have, it's not necessarily, just in the morning time or just in the afternoon, identify that this is sporadic across the board. I mean, here it is 8 o'clock in the morning and you're already having problems, with your Zoom call. So, that's not necessarily a high time that everybody, in Bob's area is going to be online and slowing down the network. So,
But it's raining outside, so the kids are all online.
yeah.
Jen,
They should be in
just
school.
can you get
Yeah.
us, by tomorrow even, a price for an extra license for this committee? The reason is, we have a really good idea of where the problem areas are, and if we can watch the database building and go back into certain neighborhoods. But we, instead of going through David Still, et cetera, if we can get the data back directly, what I will do, I have a committee presentation, I hope we still do, on the select board meeting next Tuesday.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go directly in and say it's gonna cost this much money for us to be able to, this committee to be able to do our jobs, and ask the select board for that money.
I'll definitely get that information for you, and see, how that would work. And that's fantastic. Again, I mean, this is really what we're looking for is the doers, not the talkers, but the doers. And so, that's what's going to make this most effective.
Jen, what other, you mentioned a kind of a Cape-wide effort. Can you tell us if any other towns are involved with this unified testing?
So we are, gearing up to talk with all the towns. And this is where we want to use the commission and their direct links, because obviously, it's going to be wider received on a regional basis if it's coming from the Cape Cod Commission. And so we are having nonstop meetings with all organizations such as yourself, and not even just municipalities. So I'm working with Cape Cod Young Professionals, Love Live Local. These are a lot of the entities that are making such a big impact here in our region for our small businesses that are so desperate for better connectivity for surviving the season. Never mind.
In addition, the overview umbrella group of the chambers that convened that
Correct.
that session on at Upper Cape Tech 2 weeks
I
ago.
think is it LC3 is the regional. So we already have a meeting scheduled to talk with them as well, because obviously, they have a really big impact in their area, with again, getting the word out. And that's really what our biggest challenge is. So, we are open to anybody's ideas. I mean, let's face it, that's what makes, these working groups so effective, is bringing different views and opportunities, to be able to have a greater reach.
Other
Awesome.
questions? Okay, seeing none. Well, you know how to reach us.
Well, and I was just gonna say, can I put my email in the chat, or is it not? So I was just gonna say, anybody that wants to reach out to me, wants to be included, at the weekly meetings, or has any questions. Again, this is only going to be as effective as the entities that want to get involved and participate. So, and it's not necessarily just, we're looking at, let's make this as big and wide as possible, because that's how we're going to be heard.
Okay.
Go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll have it.
Yes. And no absolute decisions, but I would guess, at least in principle, this committee would like to participate. We probably have one or two people on the call every week, just to stay abreast of where this is going. And also, again, the sooner we can get access to the media kit, we've got connections with the enterprise newspapers, reporters on the Cape Cod Times. We can start getting that out, as well as the residents' Facebook page and others, so we can start doing that. But when we give people instructions on how this is going to work, that would come after the beta testing is done and we know it works, right?
Correct. Yep, 100%. And that's why we're really, pushing to get this up so quickly. Send out some of the beta testing, send it to MBI, and again, and this is where, again, power of the people. If it's not just us saying, okay, where are things at, I'd love to be able to, even in submitting that beta testing, be able to have other people included in that submission to them to say, okay, this isn't just one entity asking a question. Now we're going to have to answer to a multitude of people that are all supporting this and behind this to get an answer. So if we have, I'd love to say dozens, if not more, included in an email to that submission, I hate to say it, but then even following up like, hey, is there a response? Is there a response? Again, we participated in their Wi-Fi, one of their Wi-Fi grants, the only organization in the Commonwealth to respond to it. And we deployed a couple wireless devices in several different towns. And now we're trying to get paid for it. And every time we follow up and say, okay, it's been 6 months. Hello, can you reimburse us this money? Oh, well, you didn't do this. And we follow up again in another month. Hey, we really need to get this money back. Oh, well, you didn't cross a T here. So 100%, we need to, really, send the beta testing, make sure everything is in the up and up, because we don't want this to be for nothing.
I have a question for Brian. Do testers have to be connected via an Ethernet cable to the modem? Or do they
the language of the final document was terrible, so we don't know, but it's got to be as close as humanly possible to it. One line says it's got to basically be from in the residential gateway. It's showing the device info and the IP, and then the other says it just be an Ookla speed test in the proximity of the device. So I would err on the side of caution to say it should be wired. Because arguably the wired from a router is going to be the same speed as inside the AP. They've overcomplicated something that should have been simple, like plugged-in speed test should have been the wording, but it is what it is.
Now,
and that will be one of the questions on the survey is, is this through Wi-Fi? Is this a direct connection? So that will definitely be one of the questions. And even for the response, because they will be uploading their bill, they'll be able to identify, okay, their route, so it couldn't necessarily just be like, oh, well, we're not in control of what their, Wi-Fi system is, or, their router. They'll be able to see, oh, this customer pays for their router through Comcast. So to be able to identify some of those things, but that will be one of the things that the participant will have to respond to.
It's one of those things that you actually need clarity from NBI, because the terminology is contradictory. And because it's a third-party tool and not MBI's tool. So we really do need clarity on plugged-in speed test from a router connected to the access point. Is that okay still? And, MBI, they won't answer anything or pay their bills. So, we've been asking this for 2.5 years. How do we do speed tests on the Cape with unstable service? What is the process that you will accept? What is the tools? What is the method? And we've gotten later. We'll get back to you later. 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
Just one question to our committee. Do we want to buy a bunch of 6-foot Ethernet cables and have them available to give out for anybody who needs it? If we think
I'll donate a bunch of Ethernet cables if you need them. It's fine.
We'll have to put hang tags on them with pictures, because I know if you handed a 6-foot Ethernet cable to my husband, he'd say, "What do I do with this?"
Yeah, I have to
back
agree
of the gateway. What's a gateway?
Right.
How do I plug it? But then what? people
My,
are
my
not.
wife has no idea that what's wired and what's not wired.
Well,
And
again, Jen, this would where the front end to your testing web page or upload page would be, one screenshot after another. Here's what the back of your modem looks like.
Correct.
Here's the plug where you put this in. Here's
Yeah.
where the Ethernet cable goes here.
And that's what we're talking about when part of our media kit is to be able to provide that step-by-step, tutorial, because exactly as you guys are demonstrating, that is the norm. Most people just don't understand any of that terminology, or, you'd send them in, a tizzy because they just don't understand any of it.
And if you ask a
I'm
techie
anticipating us going door
develop
by
this,
door.
if you ask a techie to develop this, they can't think like a fourth grader, which is really
Right.
the level you have to aim it at, which is not a slam on people's intelligence. It's what their knowledge level is.
You're absolutely right.
And so
And
that's
that's our
another
biggest
reason we
challenge.
don't want to beta test everything.
Okay.
Bob,
Yes, Jen.
I just
go
want to
ahead.
make a comment here. The standard installation procedure for Comcast is that if the cable modem and the computer are within 6 feet of each other, they're cabled up. So the only time you won't see a direct connection is when the cable modem is in a different room from the modem. At least that's the way the procedure reads.
So if your computer is close enough, that qualifies, period.
Basically, well, what I'm talking about is the 6-foot cable. That a 6-foot cable isn't going to help most people who have been through the standard Comcast installation, because the modem, if it's in the same room as the computer, then Comcast will typically wire that directly with an Ethernet cable.
They didn't do it for me. I'm
Yeah.
sitting 1 foot away from the modem right now.
No kidding. Well, I can't speak to the local Comcast people. I can only tell you what the procedure says.
normally speaking, with any newer Wi-Fi router at all, if you get close enough, you should be easily able to hit those
Granted,
minimum
I'll
speeds.
buy all of that.
Oh,
No,
no
I'm
kidding.
just saying that and again, this could be me being out of the industry for 5 years. The fact that they're not putting cables in is something new. Maybe it's a cost reduction.
Okay, well, this is clearly something that's evolving. Jen, if you want to send the contact information for your Monday morning calls, we'll have somebody on it. I will use the latest information as of Monday to report back to our select board on Tuesday evening. You're welcome to sign in on that.
Okay.
And maybe comment after I make my comments.
Mhm.
And in fact, I presume there will be a short question and answer period after I make our presentation. It'd be real useful for you to sign on via Zoom. It will be on the Bourne calendar, the dial-in information,
Okay.
and that'll have the agenda also, and you can see where we are. And comments after I make mine are perfectly welcome, at least from my point of view.
And I would say anybody that wants to participate in the Monday morning call, if you can reach out to me, I can see, I did put my email in the chat. I don't know if anybody can see that, or if
Yes.
that's.
Oh, there
Oh,
we are. Yeah.
excellent. So
Yeah.
definitely please reach out to me, and I will definitely add you, because again, this is the only way that, as you see, and even with MBI changing things, we're going to have to kind of roll with everything that they throw at us, and try to be as responsive as possible.
Or roadblocks they throw up in front of us. Yes.
And
Oh,
just
I didn't say that. Okay.
for general, monkey wrenching purposes, it always helps to CC the known universe on these sorts of things. Like if Bob sends you an email that says, I had this kind of problem with Comcast, then all that should get CC'd to all our friends at the legislative group, because they're getting fired up about this also. And if they get a steady stream of these rather than one big lump in 2 weeks, that'll keep their interest active.
Well, and I can tell you that the other night, Steve Johnston and Rob Bateman were at a meeting, and the Lieutenant Governor was there. And so they're already in her ear. As most of you probably know,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
a big proponent of broadband. And she had actually visited us before she got into office. And so, we're going to resurrect that as well. So we're really trying to get this at every angle possible, at every single level, to be most effective. And so we're out there working hard. There's no doubt about that.
Okay. Well, many thanks. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And we clearly will be in touch.
Excellent. I look forward to it. Thanks so much for your time today, guys.
Okay,
Thank
Thank
bye-bye.
you, Jen.
Have a great day.
You can hang on if you want to listen to the rest of this.
That's fine. I'll
Yep.
stand by.
You're a member of the public, and I
Yes,
need
you
to
are.
pull up the detailed agenda again.
Excellent.
One moment. I've got two screens going here. Or Jed, do you have that handy?
Do I have what handy?
Oh, no,
Yes,
Jed.
Jed.
Oh,
Jed
okay. I was gonna
Johnson.
say, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yes, okay. Jed Johnson, our vice chair on this committee.
Yeah, I can share it. Let's see, it's this one. So I think we need to do the minutes next.
Yes, we do.
I fixed one typo, one
Yeah.
little brain cramp.
No, that was autocorrect. Blame it on autocorrect. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
We're talking
No,
about Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that was my
Well, we
only
need a
comment.
Jack Ryan, so you know we can get one.
Okay. Yeah,
Anything
that was the
else?
only thing I saw.
And
Good
that
with
was
it.
in two places.
Ah, okay. I'll find the second one then.
Yep. Okay, anybody else have any corrections to those minutes? John, you weren't there, so
Right, I can.
okay. Seeing no other corrections, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Thank you.
objections? No objections.
Okay.
Okay. The next thing I have on the agenda is or is there any public correspondence? Anne Marie, none? Okay, that was quick. Moving forward. The next is Anne Marie, you have the floor now, and you can just talk about the digital equity implementation that was the workshop you went to after our committee's meeting last May 16th.
Sure. You know, a lot of entities across Cape that were participating in this. The workshop was definitely geared for those who are just starting or in the middle of the process of their digital equity plan. Bourne is definitely ahead of the curve with the outcome of what that workshop was intended. However, you know, we did have some input that was valuable to some of the other municipalities across the Cape.
Can I ask
One
what
of the
other
things that,
municipalities
pardon me?
real quick, what other municipalities are have this in process?
Oh, gosh, a lot of them down Cape, most of them down Cape. I think there's only 4 or 5 of us that actually have the plan, Falmouth ourselves. I forget the other 2. But the other municipalities
yes.
are just, you know, beginning or have started the process. So the goal, I think, of the workshop was to allow them the opportunity to be in the room together to discuss, you know, what obstacles that they're doing, what you know, for others towns has worked so far. But at the beginning, it was a little bit of just having lunch and sitting down, and it so happened that Mr. Eichen from MBI sat at the table that I was
Yeah.
sitting at. So I was able to ask him a few questions. One of them being, hey, I heard they only awarded 500,000 for you know, the grant gap round 1. He said, oh, no, we made our awards. I said, so when, you know, when's that coming out? And he said, shortly. I said, does that mean before the end of the month? And he said, yes. And I said, what about gap round 2? He goes, honestly, I said, really, gap round 2? He said, I don't have any idea when gap round 2 will be initiated, a start date or anything. He said, I don't know. So then, you know, we broke off into groups, and I happened to be in the group with Jen. And each group had sort of a question area to brainstorm some ideas. And BEAD was off the table. They did not want to talk about BEAD. Jen and I, however, were able to kind of squeeze in a little bit of conversation about BEAD. Didn't get any really direct answers, but Jen and I had more conversation amongst ourselves. But I think the point that we want to make, that this needs to be a regional effort. that the other people sitting in this room don't even know that they're going to come up against this same issue because they're not there yet. And we don't want them to miss that opportunity through this challenge. And so I think, you know, Jen can comment on this, that was sort of the point we wanted to make, but and that's what we said. And I did have conversation afterwards too with Stephen Tupper to that point. So
And
that's pretty much.
The commission is the contractor for all of these studies?
I don't know. It seems to me that, you know, the other municipalities, I think part of that too was to say, hey, here we are, use us. You know, we look at what we did in Bourne, look at what we did in other municipalities with respect to the digital equity plan. Yeah, we can be the your equity plan planners.
Did you get contact information from somebody from each of the towns?
So the commission's compiling that information, contact information, yeah. Because there was some programmings that were presented with specifics, like even, you know, the Cape Cod, the school we were at, they also presented some pilot programs that were great opportunities to reach some of those digital equity goals. But yes, Cape Cod Commission, Stephen was going to compile that list to sort of have a resource list of contacts. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll follow up.
When that comes out, you will circulate that to us?
Yes,
Sure.
please.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Okay, I'm going to diverge a little bit. Brian, let me ask you really quickly. We have filed the FOIA for the list of the winners of the GAP Networks round 1. Is that unembargoed? They put an embargo on us about divulging that information.
It was as so I can't verify these statements, but Steve Tupper said it was buried in the GAP round 2 announcements, some of the winners. I got to double check because I think it said he said he saw the towns, but not the companies, because we got listed as both the companies and the towns. So before we unembargo that, let's triple check, since you know,
absolutely.
I consider MBI being divulging anything as progress. So we want to work with them as much as possible to be better for everyone. So
but
let's verify before divulging the names of the companies that won.
But very generally, I think we can say that it looked like Verizon got awards for about 8 towns on Cape Cod. Bourne was not one of them. Comcast got several awards around the state. Bourne was not one of them. Let me ask Jen, did Open Cape apply for any of those GAP Network round 1?
Yes, we did. And we didn't get any response on that.
Okay, and I know
But we are prepared to respond to round 2.
Okay. I know New Bedford had put in a very detailed application, and they had the ability to get co-funding, et cetera, and they had very detailed information through their school middle school home testing program that they implemented. They had wonderful information, and they did not get an award. Okay.
Well, and just to add to, you know, this process, they make it so hard. We also applied for the retrofit program, and they just identified some for the first round, the areas that will be part of this. And there's only one location in New Bedford that Open Cape can respond to. So very frustrating, again, where these efforts are going, and you know, really being left out in these processes.
Okay.
I really think they need to run all these programs by a couple of towns that have to do the dirty work on the other end, because oftentimes these programs are written without any perspective of the other side that has to do it. They should have I'd volunteer as tribute if they just would show me these programs like a month out, and we give feedback before it becomes this burden for everybody.
Okay. Well, okay, that jumped a little bit ahead, but the next, in terms of funding, the next, again, is the challenge coming up. Is there anything else we need to talk about in terms of challenge testing that hasn't been covered under what Jen had talked about? My opinion is, and I don't think we even need a motion on this, is that we clearly want to avail ourselves of the Open Cape portal, as well as the data analysis that the Cape Cod Commission is going to do based on that. I don't think we need to do anything in terms of the testing itself, other than independently of that system. Any comments on that? And that was just my personal comment.
I feel like we might have to help with the outreach for sure to get more people in and keep an eye on the data to make sure we have enough data points that are below the threshold in case we need to, go banging on doors in the areas we know are bad in order to generate enough data. I think because we don't have enough time to pre-plan any of this. We just have to be ready to act as fast as humanly possible to make sure this goes through by,
Well, again,
sweat equity, I guess, so to speak.
That's why I asked Jen for a cost of a price for a license on this system, so that we eliminate one intermediate step, so we can get access to the data and do real time, like weekly or even more frequent analysis to identify where places, gaps we want to fill. And knocking on doors, I think, is the lowest level we can do that, but certainly we can identify lots of other opportunities. And we can pester the media, the residents' Facebook page, which, by the way, does not involve or provide any contact to all of the summer residents. So we can do that through some of the beach associations and other organizations to get this out. And I think it's going to be us literally knocking on doors or calling individuals to get it done as this goes on. And we have until July 20th to do all of this. Anne Marie, you have a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me get that. So I think it's really important that when this committee does their report to the select board, that the lift isn't town hall.
The what?
I can tell you right now, town hall does not have the capacity to even, like, yes, the select board wants to, obviously be on board and be aware of what's happening through this data collection process, right? The select board's gonna want to know what the end result is for the reasoning behind doing this, right? What's the end game? What's the goal? And how will it benefit the town? That's a real important to stress. And also, like, that data that's being collected, and the purpose it serves, but also, town hall doesn't want to get bombarded with phone calls and how to do speed testing.
Mhm.
So that path has to be real clear to the select board and in return to the town administrator and her staff, right? So that's where, kind of like we really have to be on our game with respects to why this process is happening, why it's important for any one of you to be representative on Monday's meetings, and exactly what the motivation and end goal is for this process, right? And I know part of the charge is data collecting, right? But the town has to make the decision about being a part of the challenge and submitting to the state.
Well, that's
right?
where the rubber hits the road after the data are assembled. And Brian, you tell me what the window is for actually submitting the challenge. But as we get this together and start to see the results, presumably we're going to show that within these census block groups we have 6 qualified sets of tests that qualify us for the area challenge. Brian, what do we have to submit, and when do we have to submit something to MBI on this challenge?
Well, with the usual caveats that the information released is thin, my best estimate from reading it all that is available is on June 10th, a qualified entity can request an account from MBI's portal. And the challenge period begins on the 20th. I believe that means we can start submitting speed tests that fall below the threshold on the 20th. I might be wrong, it could be the 10th, but we won't be before the 10th. And it will end on the 20th of July.
Mm-hmm.
So data collected even now, 60 days before that window, is acceptable based on the final language. So we can start collecting that now. We just can't put it in until, in my estimation, June 20th.
So if once we apply for the license or whatever on the 10th, that presumptively says that that we, or whatever entity, we on behalf of the select board are presumptively preparing a challenge. And do we have to do an application at the end of July 20th? Is there another document that needs to be submitted?
I believe we just start submitting individual tests, but we'll have to double check whether there's like a separate drop down for single versus area. So that's to be determined in the 10 days while the portal's open, how that logistically works.
Unbelievable.
There has to be a point person. MBI is going to require a point person. So is that point person someone is that a regional point person? Is that the pathway that or the expectation, Jen, that MBI has a regional point person, whether it's someone on the Cape Cod Commission, and the load is there, right? How is that all going to work? Like,
it's open to it. I mean, when we were at that digital equity meeting and Josh was there and I kind of made that announcement that this is what we were going to do, I you could kind of see his eyes roll like, oh, great. So, I mean, I think they know that there's obviously going to be, people are going to participate in this challenge. I think they were more expecting it wasn't going to be a regional thing, that it's going to be these one-offs. And so, I mean, I would suggest that it is a regional effort to be most impactful. But again, we're open to suggestions. I mean, do we then split it up by town? I just think what I'm thinking, and it could be wrong, open for discussion, if it's collectively received, then they can't, it'll be easier for them to say, oh, you don't qualify for this, with the one-offs. Whereas when we come regionally and say, you've accepted this is fine. And then if they have any kickback, now they're not just dealing with one town or one entity, they're dealing with a regional response to that.
Yeah.
right. So the answer to that, sorry, Bob.
Go ahead.
Then ideally we should be advocating in these Mondays meeting that when MBI requires a point person, can it be regionally Cape Cod Commission? And then the Cape Cod Commission takes the leads. And like you said, Bob, boots on the ground, collecting this data. Here's where you upload it, and allow the Cape Cod Commission or that team of people regionally to submit. Ideally, I think that's where it should be, because the lift should not come from, like you said, Jen, it's just not going to work. We don't have the capacity, and we're just one little town trying to, make good for broadband in our community for our citizens. And the way, Brian can't say it enough, MBI the whole process is not geared for towns to benefit. It's geared for big companies, right? So why don't we make ourselves the biggest we can to battle this?
Fluff our turkey feathers, as my grandkids said in the neighborhood. Brian, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, just my opinion is we can do it either way. I think we need to be prepared for both ways, whether we just have to do the lift as the town, or we do it in bulk as the Cape. We can do it either way. The biggest The biggest hurdle between the two methods is the sharing the data securely because it's PEI. So if we hash out where that gets dumped around and handled, because like if it's just okay, here's a secure box, we drop it in and David still opens it and puts it in, that's fine. If we've got to, download it from OpenCape's portal, put it up into MBI's portal, and then make sure it's deleted on someone's system who understands the data privacy rules, that's really the only hurdle between these two methods. So I just be prepared for both methods and go big if we can, and if we can't, we go small.
The real concern I would have is at the last minute, and everything they do is last minute, they would deny a regional applicant for the area challenge. They would deny the Cape Cod Commission and said, no, it's got to be the 15 towns. In which case we're scrambling, and all of the towns ought to be prepared to do that. Anyway, let's. I think we can move forward. The real question again is at the end, and on July 20th, is there another document that an entity has to submit? And if it's the Cape Cod Commission, then we need permission from the Select Board that the Cape Cod Commission on behalf of the town of Bourne is going to submit those data. If it happens to be that the town has to do it, then clearly, again, Anne Marie, there's no bandwidth of any administrative staff to do that. So at that point, in our role as data collectors for the town, for the Select Board, to advise the Select Board, we'll say, hey, we have this data and we recommend that the Select Board submit it to MBI. So those will be the decision points, and those would come in July. So if there's a deadline that MBI's got in there, we need to have a decision by the Select Board, or may need it before that comes up, and that would require a vote from this committee, and then getting on the agenda of the Select Board to get that done.
So June 10th, we get our account. So maybe we have to make sure we have a meeting that's just for analyzing and moving a motion on what we do, since we'll have a 10-day window there. So maybe we plan to meet on the day of the release or the day after, and just discuss that and send a motion to the Select Board.
At least a detailed description of what we're doing, and say we're going to move forward in our role as data collectors to advise the Select Board.
Right.
And I'll try to reread the BEAD final along with the draft software contract and see if there's any tidbits in there that can be helpful in telegraphing what's probably coming.
Mm-hmm.
Anne Marie, is there any? I get the impression that the town hall and the administrator work in a certain specific order. Is there any way or any path open where the town administrator's office could say, gee, we could use some help? Could someone come over and talk to us about where we need to steer this? In other words, we'd supply some free labor, some sweat equity. Is that allowed, or is that a problem?
That's a problem. That's not allowed, right? So town administrators' directives come directly from the Select Board based on the goals and what our priorities are, and we give the directive, and then the town administrator then, amongst her staff who have union contracts, administer that goal and directive. It doesn't mean that any individual assigned to that directive to accomplish that goal has the capacity to reach out, not for free labor, but reach out to resources to ask questions and say, how can we better do this? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I just wanted to understand the process, because I know it's complicated, and I know I was over
and it
getting
moves slow.
I was over getting my beach stickers yesterday, and the lady at the DNR was very nice, was explaining that two of her bosses just retired, and the place was kind of in pandemonium. And I get that this is a problem all over. That's why I was going to say, if we could reach out, in what way would it be allowed? So we could do it kind of in an advisory capacity, but we couldn't actually do the work. We could just be there as a resource. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I think we're straight on that, as straight as we're going to be. But again, just Anne Marie, if you want to put when did the chair change for the select board?
It did, we reorged Tuesday evening. Mary Jane is chair, Melissa's vice chair. Jean is the clerk. For SOAR commissioners, Melissa's the chair, I'm the vice chair, and Jean's the clerk.
Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, moving forward, the next I have on my my list is the American Connection Corps. And Brian, I think that process is moving forward. I think the commission is going to go and apply for that. There's one regional position that's open, and I thought the Cape Cod Commission was going to see if they could get that that position kind of assigned to them, because they've been managing the AmeriCorps people in general, and that this is an AmeriCorps position. Is that your understanding? We had a conversation with Scott McFarland. Is that right? That was the guy's name? You want to reiterate that,
so.
Brian?
Yeah, I haven't spoken with the commission, but it was a program that was very similar to the Bob, what was the name of the other program with the housing?
AmeriCorps.
Yeah, so it's AmeriCorps funded program, and it's essentially the same thing for digital equity. And MBI has funds for 10 of these scholarships and funded. And so if we, secure one of them for the Cape or Bourne or the Cape Cod Commission, they could potentially be eligible for the existing housing that's set up for this funding source, which solves a major problem with getting any talent out of the Cape is where you put them. But yeah, I think we need to speak with the commission to see if they're interested in chaperoning that process, because they'd be a strong contender to handle it, especially in the first year, since they all have all the existing agreements for the county housing, familiarity with the same funding source and the kind of contracts that have to be executed. So that'd be our first preference, to have them handle it. So we should probably reach out and discuss that with them and see if they are on the same page.
But though that is a position where some of that person's effort could be seconded to Bourne administration to help with parts of this, with implementing the recommendations in digital equity, et cetera, presuming this person had technology background. Just for information, hiring among people coming out with IT degrees this June, people coming out of school is way down. A lot of companies have done that, and there are people, IT graduates, who thought they'd walk into a job after graduating right now, are finding that they're applying for 50 jobs and getting interviews for 3 or 4 and not getting jobs. So I think the prospect perhaps of somebody taking a year to go and live on Cape Cod and get some experience and live in a nice place for a recent college grad might be quite enticing. So they may get a good number of applicants. Anyway, so we'll just have to stay tuned on that. We are in contact again with the guy who runs this in Iowa, Scott McFarland, and I'm presumably he would tell us exactly where the position will sit. But my understanding was that the Cape Cod Commission was interested in hosting this person. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, next, GAP round 2 is in Never Never Land, so we don't need to discuss that further. It may well have, require a 50% co-funding to get those grants. And clearly, municipalities are not in a position to co-fund 50% of a $20 million grant. The residential retrofit program, you heard Jen say that they had applied for, it sounded like a number of places where their system passes, right in front of the buildings, and they got nothing. I don't know what Comcast has done. And they haven't, Anne Marie, you had contact with, I had contact with Ellen Cummings, and I never even got a response back after I told her where their FiOS system passes, and I know they're installing FiOS right on the street in front of the ones on Waterhouse Road. So I would hope that they would see that as an easy installation.
Right, yeah, they also came up our road recently, last week.
Mhm.
There was a electrical company that was running cable. I'm assuming they were a Verizon subcontractor.
Okay, Brian just put in a couple of notes there about gap round 2. Go ahead, Brian. Can you?
So I barely know anything. It came out like a day or two ago, so I haven't even had a chance to process it.
Right.
But
I was gonna say, go ahead. I have something about Verizon and FiOS, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, now I don't know how realistic this is, and I think it might be wrong. But my wife, who was on the Bourne Community Facebook page, said someone posted last week, and I don't know if I won't give the total information because I'm not sure it's public, that they had just had FiOS installed on the corner of MacArthur Boulevard and Clay Pond Road, and that it looks to me like it's a commercial place, and I wasn't sure that was FiOS or maybe it's open cable. I don't know. Because I haven't seen any, I'm not sure that, I don't know exactly what Verizon has been doing. As far as I know, though, I haven't seen any outside contractors doing any FiOS stuff. They were doing something, as we pointed out a couple of weeks ago, that I saw someone in Katomet, an outside contractor doing some fiber work. So I'm not sure who's responsible for what, but this person claimed that they were getting it on the corner of Clay Pond and Route 28.
The FiOS trucks have been all over, and they've been in place for long periods of time. My inference is that they're doing splicing inside those trucks, and those pods come down inside the truck, and then they go back up as smaller pods. So my guess is that those are going to be places where splits or interconnects are going to be taken off.
Right.
Go
They
ahead.
were definitely running cable up our street because they had all of the manhole covers open.
Was it R.W. Bryant, perhaps?
No,
Okay.
I'm
all
trying
right,
to
'cause
remember
I'm sorry, that's the one I've seen.
yeah. But I did double check and I was told that they were a subcontractor from
Oh, okay,
Verizon.
all right, good. Does anybody know where the borderline is between Monument Beach and Pocasset? I'm just trying to figure how far south they're going.
Well, they go down as far as where's Barry's house? Barry Johnson, Midway. Okay.
Midway.
And just beyond that, the few houses beyond that. After that, if you notice, there are no utility poles going south on Shore Road, at least through the woods. Okay.
Right.
So they don't even have infrastructure there. And then my observation was that they stopped on County Road as far south as Catherine.
Okay.
Which is just about at the
Just before is it Bella Vista?
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
if they're coming, if they are in fact coming down Route 28, they may be coming down Barlow's Landing next. That would be the route if they're coming off of 28. Anyway, just worth. If anyone hears that anybody is getting actual installations fiber to the home, or they've been solicited, please let us know, because that's a big question mark.
Hey, Bob,
I don't know if
Yes.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jen, I've got a reflection on my screen, so every now and then I apologize to anybody whose hand I can't see. Go ahead.
so I just went into the Verizon FiOS website. I entered an address in County Road, Gray Gables, and it offered me FiOS 300 symmetric or 500 symmetric. So I can order.
Ooh.
Okay.
It's available.
Yeah.
It's $50 a month for 300 symmetric.
Oh.
So if you
Excuse me
live,
while I
I
Google
guess,
here. I'm
down
sorry.
that end of town, order FiOS. You want it?
Absolutely. I think it'd be very instructive, and Tony would know this from his Whip City electric, etc. Or just with his Whip City fiber. The crucial question is, what is going to be the take rate for people who already have Comcast? And I think that's instructive for any of the systems that come through.
Well, we know the numbers in Taunton was 30%.
Mhm. So,
Right. I think the Whip City Fiber, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking for you, Tony, but they went into towns where there wasn't competition.
That's correct. And that, I mean, it was fishing in a barrel in the hill towns of Western Mass. So it's going to be interesting. Whip City Fiber right now is going into West Springfield, which borders Westfield, and they have an incumbent. And it'll be interesting to see what the take rates are there. You know, that could serve as a model for other towns that, you know, have an incumbent or considering a fiber build.
mhm.
Right. The people in Taunton told us that the most difficult thing they were selling against was the fact that they could only offer internet and the incumbents. Verizon in Taunton also offers cable TV.
Mhm.
So they said that trying to sell internet only into a household that had cable TV bundled with internet was a challenge for them.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, the biggest challenge was getting people comfortable with streaming. And I said it before, there's a lot of informational do-it-yourself type things on Whip City Fiber's webpage. You know, even for the speed tests and things like that, if we want to look for another method of how others are informing people how to work with routers and things like that, Whip City Fiber's website has a lot of information.
Good to know. Good to know. Okay. Well, anyway, moving on. I think the residential retrofit is entirely at the behest of, frankly, who Open Cape decide, not Open Cape. I'm sorry, who MBI decides to anoint. You know, my guess is the companies have all applied for a number of easy connects, and Open Cape only granted a few of them. We'll see. So, and Bourne is not one of them, as far as we can tell. The next is public outreach opportunities, and I think this is where we need to move forward right away. Kind of in advance, I would like people to consider the idea that virtually anything that comes out in the Open Cape Media Kit on this this testing, etc., be applicable and kind of approved for us almost in advance that Wendy, etc., can use to kind of paper the landscape and get as much information out as possible at the times that work well. How much?
I'll make a motion. Wendy should distribute that as soon as it becomes available. From
Yeah,
Open Cape,
she-
Open
the
Cape's
fir-
materials.
I
be
asked
fine
her
to
to
share.
I gave Jen my email and I asked her if she could, get me that as soon as it comes out. Do you want us to like do beta testing on it first or just get it out to get it ready?
We should
Well, could I hear a
probably.
second on that motion, and we'll just discuss that. Okay, Jed
Okay.
seconds officially. Okay.
Yeah, so just if it's a publicly released media kit from Open Cape, I don't see why we just wouldn't send it everywhere immediately.
Okay.
It's already out there, right? So
Yeah, if they're asking us for our opinions on it, then that's a little bit different. But again, I'm just going to take the motion generally that anything that appears to be valid, verified, and is public information that we can go ahead and distribute without having to run this through the committee or select board or
yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
Okay.
Okay,
So
presuming
the
the
same
select board-
applies for open. If the Cape Cod Commission does and any releases on this, we should be sharing anything that's public. Just share it as is without any of our opinions or changes or
if
preferences
it's
or
a
anything
public
added to it.
release, it's not like there's any reason to have any consternation about it whatsoever. It's public info.
Okay.
And,
Well,
and
if,
Maria,
if anybody gets this stuff and I don't, I mean, could you just shoot it over to me? Because I know Bob gets things sometimes, and I asked Jen to send it to me, but if she sends it to Bob or anybody, just forward it on.
I will. Yeah.
and Maria, is there any chance we could have it put up? They have like a rotating billboard on the town website, just something that says, internet problems, click here or whatever, or, look, go to this site, testing is available. I know, like, with other things, like at the beginning of the year, dog licenses, they had it up all over that, and they had a flashing sign down at the Rotary on the other side of the bridge. Just something to if someone happens to stumble across it on the town website, oh, I can go there and I can report my issues or do some tests. Or we have to have someone to reach out to the population, because a lot of the people you talk to, I think, they don't read the Enterprise. They probably don't read the Cape Cod Times. They might be on the Facebook page. And maybe there's some people that reach out to the town website.
The summer
Right.
people just
Right.
have minimal contact with local issues, other than anything that affects their taxes, perhaps. But this would be a way to contact them.
Yeah, so after we have that conversation at the select board meeting and the quarterly report, if there's, any kind of link, and that's, the direction that, we can get up there under the under the town website, we'll have to have that conversation, or the ask anyway, at the select board meeting.
If I recollect some previous
And but
conversations, was
sorry.
that if there's a press release they can point to, then they're willing to do it. Right, that in other words, they want to see the press release. They don't want to just have us do something off the cuff.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
Right. And specifically outline, this is where you go and this is what you do, so that, if they do in the event get the phone call, because people don't, they'll just call, they won't read.
right.
Even if they do, you know what I mean? Like, as soon as they have a problem, they'll just call town hall because it was on the town hall website. So there has to be specific things. This is the contact if there's any issues, right? This is the press release. This is the contact information. Here's the link. But in the event that town hall gets it, they have a directive. They can direct that individual to say, here's the contact person, and that
Do you think it would be
information.
worth it to just add a little header that says, do not contact town hall, call these people? Be specific.
No, but just not say, do not contact town hall, because they're a public entity, right? They're to serve
On
the
this
people too.
issue, though.
But just to say, this is the contact information, just town hall having that knowledge, right? If they
Right.
do get the phone calls, not that they're not going to answer the phone, they want to be able to helpful and say, this is who you contact with this.
Right.
Yeah.
Here
Well,
you go.
they do that, for instance, for the 911 alerting system. They will periodically put that up to make sure that people are aware that, you need to get on this list. And I see it all over the place. So something in that order, I just don't know how. I think that the summer people are going to be a problem, and the beach associations are a good start. But just generally, I run into a lot of people who will tell me they have an issue and they have no idea that there are ways to reach out. They
Right.
think Comcast is it, and when you call Comcast, you get an AI robot.
Yeah. Brian, question.
I think John is on to something here, because given that the speed testing has to be plugged in, it has to be people that are on the Cape at this time. They can't do it remotely. What's this billboard that you speak of? And what's the process
they
to
had
get
it
approval to be on it?
They had like a flashing sign over, and I forget what they call it, the mainland side of the Rotary, where they will put up messages. And for a long time it was, go to this website and register for the town of Bourne 911. And then for a while it was, hey, it's time to renew your dog's license. Go to this link and you can do it online. So that's what they did. And they've also got it on the web, right, on the website. It appears on the town website. They've got like a rotating bulletins, basically, that have several things on them that rotate around. So that's one place you could at least start, where someone can see it and say, oh, hey, there's a link. Let me write that down, or let me click on it and see what I can do.
And what's the process to get on there, and how many characters? And can we get it as short as like a headline? Go on to, the internet speed testing now, go to X site, like how many characters does it have? I'm not familiar with this billboard. I don't
I'd have to ask Anne Marie.
I'm not sure on the process of that. I think that is dictated by town hall and getting information out. That's within, how they operate and how they reach out, another form to reach out to the community with operations for town hall. So I don't know that we'd be able to use it for this particular case, right? Because they'll say, things like town meeting, things like dog license. Nothing other than operations of the town do they use it for.
Well, they have one up in front of the old Pecasset Fire Station that says, do you have your
Emergency kit,
emergency
yeah.
plan or
Yeah.
something like
Right, and
that.
that's
So,
dictated by like the fire chief and the police chief as operations for safety reasons, yes.
Right.
But I
But
don't know
dog-
that we'll be able to put a link up there to say, hey, do the speed test.
well, dog licenses.
Well, it might be
clearly
a
would
stretch,
be,
but part of the challenge process is adding all the public safety buildings to the list of community anchors. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a stretch, but
Okay. Well, again, I'm going to leave that for now. But clearly we want to, as information comes in from Open Cape or anybody, we want to start disseminating this. And, we've got our lists, and if anybody knows where to get a list of the beach associations, the HOAs, that would be a perfect place to do, to get some of this information out on, just on their bulletin boards. But I think we really need to hit the ground running as soon as the information that's been vetted and we know is valid from Open Cape or the Cape Cod Commission, just paper the world with it very quickly.
How about the Chamber of Commerce, the chambers? They
Yeah,
can get that out to their members.
It's going to go to the chambers also. That's what Jen said.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
to go to anyone who will listen and can transmit it, we need as much noise on this. This is the biggest thing that's come to us in forever. As far as getting money to show up to solve the problem someday.
Okay. I want to move on next to the select board meeting, and presume everybody got the PowerPoint that I sent around, and I've got to see if I can do a share screen here. Share screen. Here we go. Now, where is it? Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Bingo. Okay. This again is just modeled after the meat of the last presentation. I've got a second slide here in which has the old testing data. In the interest of time, I have it hidden right now, and I don't think we really need to present that. Does anybody see we need that information? Again, in front of the select board, we've got a new select board member, remember?
Mhm.
I agree with you, Bob.
Are any
yes.
of these likely to change with all these new FiOS installations going in?
Well, you're showing Monument Beach at 100% now, so
Yeah,
don't know
well,
that-
again,
I don't think it's useful data. I really don't.
this is very old. This is almost 3 years old right now.
Ah, well then.
And so I'm going to eliminate that slide. I'll delete that later on. Once again, just for the benefit of Gene, just basically say that this is our opportunity to prepare and get our own case made in front of MBI. And I put this in the bottom, work with Open Cape and the Cape Cod Commission staff to help the residents conduct testing, and then to the extent that we need to do it, organize tests by census block group as the basis for area challenges. Is there anything else that needs to be said there?
No, but I just see a typo you might want to change.
Oh, let me do that right now.
There you go.
I perused through the speed challenge documents, and it doesn't look like there's like a second step. We just have to have the town have a portal and submit the individual speed tests. I could be wrong on June 10th, but it looks like it's just get the portal, submit the individual ones. As soon as enough of them are in the same census block group, it starts the area challenge.
I think, go
Okay.
ahead. I think when we get to the end of this, we can probably get, I think Steve Mealy is our rep on the Cape Cod Commission. And then you just get the commission to send a letter that summarizes all the census block groups that, based on our analysis of the data submitted, we're going to claim as underserved, and just reiterate that. And if When the rebuttal comes back, we can be ready to fight Comcast on that.
Right. One slight typo, and Jed, tell me if I'm right. I think when you say Mbps, the BPS should all be small, because what you're saying there is bytes per second and it's bits per second, and there's a multiplier of at least 8 if you go from bits to bytes.
There's a
So
lot of
only-
editorial help I'm going to need on this from anybody who's a PowerPoint expert, which I am.
Could I suggest that you make that sentence: to receive grant funding, a town must document poor broadband service. That'll scan better, and they won't get lost in the extra syllables.
Okay.
A town must document poor broadband service. ENT, poor
Yeah.
broadband service. Can you say town rather than municipality, because we're a town, and
Okay.
and this is supposed to be, where they're looking at how this applies to Bourne. You could even say Bourne, but anyway,
I'll just say a town. Okay.
yeah.
Right there.
And then it says Bourne can submit its own data.
Yeah. Is that
Do you want
okay?
to put a less than sign before the 100? There you go.
You might even say less than, because a lot of people get that backwards.
Okay. Plenty of room for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the next slide. And this, I need help reformatting this a bit, but this is a rejigger to some extent of, let me just see if I can get this all on screen. Okay. Okay, first line, I added Waterhouse Road because we know that
Mm-hmm.
they're working their way down there, and then fiber to the home, when? That's still a valid question. Okay,
I would define that, because there are people who are going to see that abbreviation, and then in the millisecond it takes them to remember what it is, you will have moved on, and they'll lose something.
So we know it's available in Gray Gables, Bob.
yeah, okay.
So you want to say to the home.
It's
Okay.
also a question of where and when. We've seen select addresses, that's actually the first sign we've had.
I've just been pot shotting a little bit while we're on the call here. It seems as if you're on County Road, you're good, and they're still slowly starting to go down some of the side roads, but not very many.
Mm.
In deference to the folks on Shaker Drive, that's going to be low hanging fruit. Anne Marie, you have your hand up. I see you over there.
Thank you. I've got a hard stop at 9:30, but I will review these, and if I have any comments or suggestions, I'll just email them to you, Bob.
And I'm presuming very generally, does this look like what would be acceptable? Because we've got to vote on this to so that you can so that I can submit it for the
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's really quickly look at that. Again, except for some formatting and minor word changes down below. Does this look like in general what we should be focused on? Again, the residential retrofit I might cut down just because we've already known we're not going to get any. And the pre-bead testing is the big part of it, and I've got it in all caps down below. Let me just see. Let me go down another. Get back to the next slide. One moment, folks. No. I closed out my little screen on the side. I'm using on this computer. I'm using
Hit the escape key. Hit the escape key. You might get back your side panels.
come on. You know what? I'm gonna go on a slideshow. Just really quickly.
Anne Marie, very quickly, assuming that we get the point across about the additional BEAD funding, will the select board be asking us that, assuming we do get some grant money, how we would recommend it be spent? Because I think that the path is a little unclear, and I don't know what their aims are on the select board.
Well, so, I mean, to get through the, get the priority seems to be getting through this challenge, right? Collecting this data. And then the recommendation will be then the recommendation will be what part of this digital equity plan, as the select board sets their priorities, how we can fund it. And then take recommendations from this committee on how best to fund it, right? What resources to use, how much money, what can we check off the list from the digital equity plan?
Well, not only just the digital equity plan. I mean, this is broader. Peter is broader than just that specifically.
Well, it is. It is. But when you make your recommendations, it can't just be, let's go after this money. It has to be a specific target of goals and the pathway to get there, right? The dollar value, what's the end result? And then, for the select board to make an informed decision to say, yes, this is viable, this is feasible. And then implementation, right?
Well, again, that is a little bit down the road, but very quickly,
It is.
if you look at this,
It is.
if you look on this next slide, I put in the third block down there. I put in a statement about the Falmouth Net feasibility study that's being done, and they're comparing exactly the three models: privately owned,
Right.
private partnership, public partnership, and then town owned. Again, what we're going to look at that when it comes out in August, maybe, is track the applicability to Bourne and learn lessons from the road that they're treading ahead of us. They're probably doing it. And
So
that's
a
the
couple-
kind of information that if we get a grant, if we've been declared as underserved and are eligible for a grant, that's informs what kind of options we would recommend to the select board to go forward with, or to town meeting.
Right.
Okay,
So,
and
couple-
so,
That's down the road.
but
couple things
but
on
it's
that,
not
Bob.
that far down the road. I mean, who knows when these grants are gonna come out the second half of the year, and this feasibility study is gonna be done in August.
So
So
a
in
couple
August
things
and
on that,
September,
Bob.
we start to make decisions. Yes, Jed?
So Falmouth Net calls it a comparison study, not a feasibility study.
Okay,
And as far as the time frame goes, as of 2 weeks ago, there was no commitment to get this done by September. I know that there was Steve Tom, I think, who was on that call 2 weeks ago, said that they're talking to CTC about finishing by September, but at that point there was no plan in place. So
oh, okay.
I think those dates are kind of squishy. That's the only point I'd make, unless somebody's talked to Falmouth Net since then.
Could I suggest cutting down the too many notes on this thing, on
Okay.
this slide? I
Would
say,
you like to make some suggestions on editing this in terms of, and Wendy, I'm going to ask for your help in just editing this to get it
do you want to do that
get it
now
down.
or after the meeting?
After the meeting.
Okay.
I think we can generally approve content here and go forward. We're not going to add anything specifically or take
No.
anything out, but just in terms of the general elements that I've got here, there's some typos and some other things. Just
Yeah.
let me know what the opinion is. After this slide, I've got this select board slide, which is which needs probably some addition here. So if anybody wants to make any comments about this is again what the select board should be doing. Okay. And I said, support townwide and Cape-wide publicity for challenge testing. You know, that's our recommendation. If the select board all of a sudden says no, SciTac and Bourne back off and leave it all to the Cape Cod Commission and Open Cape, well, we'll discuss that. But our recommendation is that we want our select board to be in favor of this at least. You know, and at least follow what Open Cape and the Cape Cod Commission are doing. We want to update them very periodically on what's going on with as the data start coming in, and what appear to be the patterns of underserved according to the the census block definition that MBI has set out for us. And again, this would be approved submittal of the BEAD challenge, which means an application on or by June 10th. For us as what is it called, a license, Brian?
We get access to MBI's portal that Sanborn is putting up.
Okay. So this
it's funny you mentioned license, because it doesn't talk a lot about that, but it says it will have rights for whatever permission in MBI's portal to match the cost quest location IDs to physical addresses.
okay,
That
we
was
already
one
have
of
a
the
cost quest
features
license.
we already have because of the license we've got, but this is a discussion for after June 10th, because I don't think it's going to be a huge lift of legal headache or anything to get that account.
Okay. Well, we just want to make it clear to the select board that we want them to approve that we're doing this. Okay. And I would appreciate it on Tuesday evening, Brian, if you could be on board on the call so you can explain the details if questions are presented. Without going into great detail, just we want the select board to fully implement the recommendations of the digital equity plan based on going for the 70,000. We have the $70,000 grant, and if necessary, go for the additional 30,000. And I think the select board ought to keep in touch with the people who are receiving these services over time as the recommendations are implemented. People who take hotspots out from the library or whatever. And then support the multi-town application for the AmeriCorps, American Connection Corps intern. I think that's what it's called. And that's it. Anne Marie, is that short enough? Okay.
Yes, and I did stress at the last select board meeting to ask the committee to review the quarterly report that was given back in, what was that, February?
February.
Yeah.
Just as in preparation and to, be prepared for this meeting on the 4th. And I'll send the last quarterly report so they can refresh themselves. And then, of course, this will go in our packets tomorrow.
Right.
For June 4th. This will go in our packet tomorrow.
So this is, again, if you want to just point out that there are perhaps 50 slides in that other report. And there are about 6 in the front section of that I actually presented at the meeting in February. And
Right.
what I've done is modeled this after those 6 slides.
Right.
Okay, so
But just especially for Jean to have some background information because she's new,
Right.
I'll send her that one.
Okay.
And
And
then
that also has the charge in there.
it does. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be helpful to her, and it'll be helpful for the other board members to sort of refresh themselves
Yeah.
on what's happening.
And just a housekeeping matter. I at least have informed the clerk's office that I'm seeking reappointment to this committee. I presume other folks on the committee have gotten that inquiry too, and I presume you've all responded positively, and we still have one position open here. So I don't know when that reappointment has to happen, but
It'll probably happen in July because of your appointments are till June 30th. So
Okay.
I don't think it'll happen before that. I'm gonna guess some of our first meetings into July when we do the other appointments, right? Because there are several committees that we'll be doing appointments for, so.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we're gonna continue operating even after June 30th, even if it's without portfolio, so to speak. Okay. Does this aside from changing some of the formatting here on this particular table, and maybe cutting down the residential retrofit, just point out that right now it appears that no facilities in Bourne are going to receive any grants from, even though the companies may have applied for them. Okay. So are we done with that? And Wendy, I will get on the phone with you and we'll try to see if we can polish this, de-wordify it a little bit, etc.
Can do
Can
that.
I make a motion
You
here,
sent me a
Bob?
copy, so I can, I mean, I hate PowerPoint, but I could do it right on the slides and send
Yeah,
it
go
back to
ahead.
you, and then we could talk about that and make sure I haven't missed anything.
That's great. Jed, go ahead. You have the motion?
Yeah, so this is for Tuesday, right? So I want to
Yes.
make a motion that the committee approves the content of these slides and supports any editorial changes for the presentation to the select board on June 4th.
Second,
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none on that, all those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Hearing no opposed, so it's unanimous. Okay, so let me unshare the slide here.
I thought it was good, short, and to the point.
Yeah, we can do that.
Why is this not unsharing? How do I unshare, folks?
should be the bottom of your screen.
Where it says share screen, there should be an unshare under that.
You could also just close, if you just close the app,
Okay,
that's the brute force way to do it.
yeah, okay, here we go. Come on, close.
You want to save it.
Click on save first.
No, okay, it just popped up. Stop share finally popped up after
There you go.
hitting that menu 4 times.
Okay.
Okay. Tech Council. The Tech Council is now holding weekly meetings on Wednesdays at 9, just to talk about challenge process. And Open Cape has been there. They're trying to do outreach as much as they can to all of the members of the Tech Council, including, there's an infrastructure committee and a broadband subcommittee under the infrastructure committee. And I think this is the broadband subcommittee, but still they're trying to make as many contacts as they can. They're going to be doing the same thing. They're trying to get the towns together, to the extent that there are town committees on this, to get them all to sit in on it at least. And just share information in terms of publicity, and follow along with what I think this is where the Cape Cod Commission may well be reporting out some of their interim data as this challenge goes along. So I'm hoping to be able to see GIS maps of with areas where bad tests or poor tests are being accumulated. Any questions on that? The next is the Mass Broadband Coalition. Bob Espindola, who was the select board chair in Fairhaven, rotated off the select board, and he then rotated off the committee that was following broadband, and just got reappointed as a citizen member of the committee. So he's going to be starting those meetings again. The monthly meeting, his next one is not until something like somewhere around June 20th. So they're not really a player here. I did say that the most urgent agenda item he should have is getting the towns to participate in challenge testing. So we'll see. I have not heard a response back to my comment on that. Jed, any further information on the other towns? Thank you for the information on that Falmouth Net comparison study.
So the MLP, the 3 new members were on the ballot, I guess 2 weeks ago. So they have a new board. They met once last week. The agenda was pretty sparse. They were just getting organized. The only other item on the agenda was a discussion with Falmouth Net about the comparison study. So they're still working through that. And there have been no future MLP meetings scheduled at this point. I've been looking at the planning board and the select board agenda in Falmouth, and Boundless hasn't shown up on any of them.
There's a rumor going around, unsubstantiated, maybe you can hear about it, is that Boundless is getting cold feet, and it may be because of investors getting cold feet. So
yeah, it's it's not surprising given how slow they've been rolling out any info in Falmouth, and there's nothing going on in Falmouth basically as far as Boundless goes, but I can at least not publicly. So, and then yeah, the other towns, it's getting there's even less and less going on. The only other towns that show anything on their websites, Wellfleet is still extending their town network out to the beaches, and that's really the only main thing going on. In Truro, it's focused on cell service. Apparently cell service in Truro is almost non-existent. And so that's the main thing that committee works on.
Just in terms of cell service, I've had occasion. I've got by the way, just a little personal aside here. I may drop out of contact periodically. I have a rental property in Sandwich, and I'm having real problems with the former tenant with trespassing and other things. So I'm getting police calls and others. So I'm over in Sandwich all the time, and the cell service over there is terrible. And I talked to one of the neighbors at this property, and he said, "Yeah, we're in the historic district, and the historic district won't let cell towers go up." So to make a phone call, I've got to kind of drive down along 6A and get near the police station where there's public Wi-Fi. So if anybody's having trouble contacting me for any reason, I'm having to spend long periods of time trying to undo the damage that my former tenant left.
They need the styrofoam church steeple in Sandwich. That's the trick, and it works. I think in Natick, where I came from, it worked really well. Even from the outside, it looks completely fine, but it's a cell tower hidden.
Yeah. Well, again, big difficulties, and they all complain about it over there, and nothing seems to get done. Any other town activity that might be coming up? I think the challenge process and the Open Cape / Cape Cod Commission umbrella might be a good way to generate activity in a lot of the towns that are non-participants. Again, there's some down Cape interest in digital equity, but a lot of that, from what I understand, is all done by town staff who are overburdened and not really familiar with much of this. So
the other thing I'll bring up, you were mentioning, it's interesting that you didn't hear this through your Fairhaven contact, but they have an MLP vote on the ballot coming up. It's either ballot or town meeting, I don't know, coming up in the middle of June.
Who does? I'm sorry.
Fairhaven.
Fairhaven. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, they split up with Entry Point. Entry Point was going to do a pilot with them and was not able to do it. Cost issues, some other technical detail. So Entry Point walked away from Fairhaven, and then Fairhaven started a group like ours. I don't know exactly how it's structured, but there's some kind of an internet committee, and they got the MLP vote up in front of the town coming up in June. And they also, I don't know if they call it they have some kind of a study going on similar to what Falmouth Net is doing in conjunction with the MLP vote.
Okay, good. Presumably we'll hear about that and report back after they hold their next meeting in a couple of weeks. Something like that. Okay. So the next question I have is, given that this is coming up, the challenge is coming up imminently. Do we want to, at least during the period of the challenge, do we want to be meeting weekly? Do we need to be meeting weekly? That's a question for you, even if it's only a
Yeah.
reduced agenda.
Well,
that'll
let's
be
just talk
discussed.
about the next meeting. I mean, what do we have to do between now and the 13th?
Presumably just do publicity to get people to use this testing portal, and we're going to be using somebody else's publicity, right?
Yeah, and I think we already gave the go-ahead to propagate any public info that comes out of the county. Right,
Mhm.
we
We
don't
might
need
have to be doing mock testing, or not mock testing. We should start testing with Open Cape's portal of whatever kind, and on our own houses, and getting
Sure.
working the bugs out. I think is what we'll be doing.
But we can be doing that, and it's like, as I or Brian or whoever get information in on actually testing this, we can distribute that to all 6 of
Correct.
us.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
without comment back, everybody just test away, and then bring comments back for the meeting on our next one is the 13th.
Yeah, so right, so I think based on this short conversation here, I think we could meet again next on the 13th. Because
I
everything
think the
else,
one area we need was the question list for MBI, since they requested that we put together a questions list for them and have a phone conversation instead of FOIAing them constantly.
Yeah.
So that might be the other thing to do.
Brian, they had asked for a meeting at the beginning of this week, and I was busy dealing with police matters, so I missed that. If you want to send an apology and just ask for maybe 2 of us to sit down with them with questions, we can go forward with that.
I think we need the question list first, because right now we know it's a speed testing. We're not sure what the 2 statements that contradict, how to resolve that. Jed, what else did you have that was weird in the speed testing that we didn't
well, it was
understand?
just the mention of the residential gateway.
Can I just say for the agenda item for the 13th, if you want to put just questions to MBI on the details of the testing, and then we can in fact start assembling those. If you want to use me as a point of contact for maybe actually, to be safe, use Brian as a point of contact to send questions. And again, this is a next 2-week agenda item, but by then we can have assembled the questions and maybe even ask them to MBI and report back on what the answers are, or non-answers are. Excuse me.
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay.
So I'm sharing the proposed agenda here, Bob.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Pretty much what we did today. I changed the item D to be the feedback and discussion about the presentation.
Right.
Mhm.
Everything, and I don't know if there's anything else we need to add in here.
Do we know, Bob, when or if the select board will be asking for recommendations regarding the digital equity money implementation, or are they just gonna let Marlene handle that?
We have been explicitly told that you will be informed when and if we need any further advice. But this is clearly it's a town administration only process from here on out.
So I'm just leaving it on the agenda for now in case something comes up, we can discuss it.
Yep.
We can always discuss it.
Well,
It should be on the agenda so that the public is aware of what's being discussed in the meeting.
Well, that's what I
Exactly.
mean, even if they want to take the "don't call us, we'll call you" approach, we can still discuss it and keep
Of course, yeah.
keep
We
it
can
up in
discuss
front of
anything that's on the
eyeballs.
agenda, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, any other suggestions for additions or changes to the agenda?
No, it looks good to me.
Okay, I'll send it out after the meeting.
Very good. And Wendy, if you would like, we can get together perhaps
This afternoon?
this evening after you. I'm going over to do more battle in Sandwich for the rest of today.
Yeah.
If you guys hear of a barricade situation or anything in Sandwich, let me know. The cops who handle my problems on Sunday were very happy that I hadn't called on Saturday because they had absolutely nobody available when they were chasing that guy down from Braintree.
Oh yeah, the
Blonde
stabbing
guy,
guy.
Anyway, so just again, send me a text or something, and we can pick a time in the evening to get together and go through your changes. And I much appreciate your help there.
Sure, and easily done. I'm just looking at my calendar to see, what the heck is going on here. I'm free this evening, and probably pretty much all day tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go start on it, and then
Okay.
I can send it to you. And whenever it's good for you, you just get back in touch with me and we'll chat.
Much appreciated. Okay, thank you, folks. I think this was a productive meeting. Let's hope we, oh, by the way, everybody plan if you can to sign in or maybe even be present for the select board meeting on Tuesday evening.
Will
And
do.
look at the agenda tomorrow evening and you'll see where we sit on the agenda. Okay,
All right,
thank you,
sounds
folks.
good.
Here
See
now.
you later.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.